What's happening, Facebook, YouTube, and any and all audio podcasting platforms? I'm Ryan Thomas. Once again, this is the Thomas Take Sports podcast. And once again, I am joined by an awesome guest, somebody that I've definitely wanted to talk to. And we were connected via a mutual friend. Shout out to him, a big time listener of the podcast and a big time supporter of the Buffalo Stampede, that is Scott Brown. But I'm talking to Brian Thompson tonight, the head coach and GM of the Buffalo Stampede, which is a team, of course, in the USPHL. Brian, thanks so much for joining me, buddy. I really appreciate this.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So that's right where I'm going to get started. Let's keep it close to home. Let's keep it to Buffalo. In case people don't know what that water is below us, that's the Buffalo waterfront. The city's behind us. You'll see that as the show ends, of course. But tell me a little bit about the Buffalo Stampede as a USPHL hockey club and your season thus far in 2022, 2023, obviously, and just the league in general. For those that love the amateur hockey circuit, they might already know about it. The Cornerstone Arena, you guys got great support every night that you're on the ice. But for those that don't know, what can they expect from a Buffalo Stampede hockey club?
I think, to start, our league has been around, 30 years probably at this point now. It started primarily on the East Coast and has since just expanded all over the country. It's currently sitting at around 70 teams at our level alone, from Maine to Florida to Seattle to San Diego and kind of everywhere in between. And, it's centered around giving kids an opportunity to advance their career outside of high school and preparing them to, achieve their dream of playing at the collegiate level. So all of our guys are in that 16 to 20 age range. Coming from our team is really all over the world. I've got half my roster or so is local Buffalo kids. I've got kids from Canada. I've had kids from Texas. I have a Slovakian and a Spaniard on my blue line right now. So we pull in kids from all corners of the globe that all share that passion of just wanting to extend their career, continue to develop. Every kid being the individual that they are. Everyone's on a different path, and we're trying to be that home that helps them kind of launch their career to the next level and that collegiate goal for most of them. In terms of our season, this is my first year with the program, the second year that the Stampede has been around. So being able to come in and help lay a foundation of what our culture is going to be, the expectation, how we go about preparing every day, learning how to be a high level athlete. Some of the things that when you play minor hockey and things like that kids kind of grow up just sort of being better than everybody in a lot of instances. And then when you get to the next level, there's that learning curve of like, okay, everyone is on a level playing field. What do I have to do to advance? What do I have to do to go from being a good hockey player to a great hockey player, to get noticed, to get colleges to look at me, to get higher levels of juniors to look at me? So our whole program is centered around develop and advance. And I think that anyone that comes through our program sees that. They get better, they learn, they have a great time. We have a real positive atmosphere, and we help to get them to where they want to be. So our season, frankly, we've gone through kind of all sorts of ups and downs, right? I mean, it's, I brought in pretty much an entirely new roster from last year's inaugural team that I think I only returned probably 3 kids off last year's team. So building a roster of 25, 26 guys that don't know each other, they're getting to know each other, getting to learn personalities and playing styles. And a lot of them are in a new city or even a new country. And, then we've had some adversity through injury, and we actually had a player pass this year, which was one thing you're never prepared for. So I give our guys a ton of credit that have stuck through and really matured and grown up and dealt with a lot this year to be where they are, right? Fighting for a playoff spot is commendable to them and their character. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it has been a season of adversity. I don't know what it is with adversity in Buffalo sports teams, but it seems like they've been able to all weather the storm of going through that, type of adversity and unprecedented adversity at that. But with that unprecedented adversity, I'm glad you mentioned it in this regard. I like to say, tragedy turned triumph. I feel what you guys are able to do in the community. As far as the Love Like Ben Memorial Fund, I wanted to put some spotlight on that and tell me how much that means to you, just in terms of seeing how the loss of Ben impacted your team, as well as how this has been a uplifting fundraiser for the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously never something you want to go through. Ben Fike was a local Lockport kid, 20 years old, had a veteran of junior hockey, and just, a kid that was mature beyond his years. Well loved and respected really by anybody that had a chance to know him. Constantly a positive driving force in our locker room, in the community. He actually managed a local Tim Hortons, and was just he was an adult amongst children, and kind of being able to showcase how to go about living your life the right way, how to show people respect, how to deal with people, how to have a positive attitude every day, no matter what's going on in your life. He's dealing with injury and his own things going on. Then to have that just be taken away from you so tragically and quickly, it shook us. I mean, obviously, we're his teammates, but you think about his family and his friends outside, and what they had to go through losing a guy like Ben is tragic. But out of that, what we try to take from it is his memory, how he held himself, and how he carried himself in our locker room, in the community, with his friends, with his family. He's an example that I think everybody should strive to live like. And I think that, the Love Like Ben is an example of that, where it's what he did. He loved everybody, and he never met a stranger, never met anybody that he wasn't going to come chat with. And, in 2.5 minutes of talking to him, you're like, man, that guy's awesome. I want to be like Ben. And he's led an example for us that we take with us every day. There's not a day goes by that our guys aren't thinking about him, and I'm not thinking about him, and we're not thinking about his family. And, he's been a good point for us to be able to look back on and be like, what would Ben do here? How would Ben carry himself? What's that example like? And, anything that we can do to, contribute financially, or anything we can do to help support the family or whatever it is, it's the least he could do, because, if it was anybody else, that Ben would be leading the charge.
Exactly. Very well said. A great source of inspiration for you guys, as well as the community, based on everything that I know about the Fike family and know in regards to Ben. I'm sure his family is pretty inspired by your response as a GM and coach of the team, and as well as his teammates continuing forward for him, knowing that you guys are in full support of them as well. I want to just personally thank you in terms of how you guys have handled that. Obviously, it was very, very sad news to hear that, as he was a big source of inspiration for you guys on the ice and even off the ice, more so now, of course. So, definitely donate today. Right now, you go to the BuffaloJuniorStampede.com website, and that's one of the first things you see is the LLB #9 Love Like Ben Memorial Fund. Donate today, goes to a great cause, and definitely is something that I am sure to donate to in the near future. I want to let you know of that. Okay.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
Of course. So as far as your roster right now, you mentioned that you guys have just so many players from other areas. What has that process been like for you in your first season? I mean, a lot of us love to play fantasy hockey or fantasy baseball or fantasy football, but it's not as easy being an actual GM of a team, trying to piece together a team, not only the guys that you want, but you're not looking for the best players. Herb Brooks said at one time, he said he wasn't looking for the best players, he was looking for the right ones. What exactly does that mean to you in terms of looking for the right players rather than the best players?
Well, Herb's spot on. Like that, it really is true that it's not necessarily having a roster of the most talented kids you can find. I mean, obviously, the better your talent is on your roster, you're already that much farther ahead. But if you've got the wrong mentality, where guys are selfish, or they're feeling like the world owes them something, or they're the smartest guy in the room, and things are beneath them, or, I'm not getting enough playing time, whatever it is, it's never going to work. So finding the guys that understand where they're at in their career, the USPHL, the tier 3 level is about development. Everyone in this league has a hole, point blank. And sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's just experience, and sometimes you are good enough to make the next level, but it's numbers. There's thousands of talented hockey players out there, and sometimes your path as the individual is a little bit longer and more winding than you'd like it to be. So that's where we have to really do our homework on the type of person you're getting. Are they a self-starter? Are they expecting things to be handed to them, or they have that drive that they're going to take the opportunity, and then putting them in that environment to help them be the best version of themselves. I mean, one thing that I talk about with any kid that comes in is I make them talk about who they are. Like, we have to establish an identity of who you are as a person, as a player, so that you can really work to cultivate that and become the best version of that you can. Because the higher you go in hockey, I talk to coaches at the college level, at higher levels of junior, and every one of them comes back to, what does he do? Like, what am I getting? Where does he fit? How does that work? And I think a lot of kids and parents and advisors don't always touch on that to them. It's like, well, you need to be able to do a little bit of everything. No, you don't. Like, if you get into a team environment and your role is to be a scorer, because that's what your game is, score, put up
Right.
points. If
Right.
that's not I'm not going to ask guys that play on my third line that are penalty kill guys. I'm not going to ask them to drive points, because that's not their style. That's not what they're kind of naturally wired to do. But we're going to teach them how to be the greatest penalty killer, checker, whatever it takes that we can. Because if I call a college next year and be like, hey, this kid, he's going to fit on your third line on the right side. He's going to be super responsible. He's going to do X, Y, and Z. Here's the type of person he is. They go, oh, okay, that fits. That's what I'm looking for. Versus the jack of all trades mentality, where it's like, well, I'm a little bit of a disher, but I also like to shoot. I can play center. I can play left wing. And you can't do anything. Like, you can't do any of it. Like, let's figure out who you are first, and then put you in the right place to succeed and help you be the best version of that we can.
And that kind of goes to something that you discussed briefly, but it's development, right? Like, that's a big part of your overall scope of player development. And I believe in hockey. I talk about football a lot on this podcast. I talk about hockey too a lot. But in terms of, if I were to compare both sports, I mean, to me, the guessing game of development, the projection of development, how a guy can develop or a girl can develop in hockey, I think is tougher to gauge in hockey than in any other sport. And I want your take on that. In terms of being a coach as well as a GM, how tough is it to really know necessarily whether this kid, boy or girl, is going to become what you think they become? What does that consist of in terms of what you're looking for?
I think, first off, youth hockey players, the talent pool has never been deeper in terms of skating ability, shooting, stick handling, passing. The physical skill sets, I think, are off the charts. I think Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, the influx of European development, things like that, these kids are super talented at all kinds of levels of hockey, way more so than I can remember growing up. The problem becomes, it's mental. It's IQ, it's decision making, it's body language, it's how do you handle when things go wrong, how do you handle when things go right. And that's the toughest thing to gauge, because there's typically not a tangible result that you can look at. Like, I can measure how fast you are, how strong you are, how hard you shoot. I can watch you skate. I can watch you stick handle through cones and things that you see a lot on the internet now, and the Instagram skills coach. But can you make a decision? Like, do you know how to play in your own end? Do you know where you're supposed to be? Can you read and understand space? Right. I mean, I think you can
Right.
boil the game down. You can boil really any team sport down: basketball, soccer, lacrosse, hockey. They're all similar in that regard, to where it's the attacking principles are all kind of the same if you really think about it.
Mhm.
And in football, there's There's defined routes. It's more scripted. It's you're going to do this. This is your route. This is your assignment. This is what you do every single time. There's not as much of the read and react, process information as it's ever evolving. Where hockey, you can't practice. Like you can have a set face-off play, right? You can have your power play. With even when we worked on our power play today for 45 minutes, and it's not you're going to make this pass and then this pass and then this pass. It's we're trying to isolate that penalty killer. And I'm going to give you options to go left, right, or center. And then you have to be able to read and make a decision based on how the game is evolving and being able to teach a 16, 17-year-old kid that not everything has to be the home run pass, right? Like be okay with, well, that guy's open, just give it to him. Or you don't have anything, you're open. Move your feet. Walking them through those situations and that sort of thought process through film study and, running through things in practice that put them in a very, condensed version of it. We're going to drill down a concept into a skill, and then we're going to add a layer to it. Then we're going to add another layer to it, another layer to it. And you hope that by the end of the year, you're not making repetitive mistakes because there's always going to be something new, but they're starting to find themselves in the same situation over and over again and going, oh, I've seen this before. I know what to expect. And then you can make a decision based off that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing from a development standpoint. And I'm a skills coach. I do the individual stuff. I do youth camps. I do all that other work. And you do work on the skills, and that's outstanding. But I think what we've seen is now that there's a ton of kids with skill, and the ones that are progressing are the ones with brains too. The ones that are able to think and kind of put themselves in different spots, which is where I don't think the kids should be playing one sport the whole time. I think it becomes too special. Like player to things. You learn attacking principles. You learn new terminology, new thoughts, new ideas from jumping from sport to sport to sport that translate into your game as a hockey player.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's fascinating. Would you say within all that, what would you say actually is the most important skill set to you as a coach as well as GM? Would it be the physical? How good of a skater are they? How quick are they to the puck? How quick are they in terms of recognition, in terms of awareness? Are those the principles that you really look at first and foremost when analyzing a player?
I think when I'm looking at it, I think you need to preface it with there's a baseline, right? Like there's a baseline of physical ability that if I go into a combine or I'm scouting a high school game or watching film on somebody, there's a base layer of ability that you have to check off, right? But once you get beyond that, you find yourself with this pool of players that frankly, if you just walk into the rink and watch them, they all kind of look the same. So that's where you have to dive into how well do they play their position? Are they able to make decisions? When they get scored on, are they head and shoulders slunked over, sulking back to the bench? Are they patting the guy next to him on the butt, being that sort of encouragement to keep going? Like what else do they have? How do they interact with their parents in the lobby? I have written kids off because I didn't like how they acted in the lobby.
Wow.
Before I ever talked to them.
That is important.
It's because you're dealing with people, and the
Right.
hockey part of it is kind of a small piece in the grand scheme of things, where if you're just kind of a bad dude, like no one really wants to be around you, like you're selfish, you're thinking the world owes you everything, your teammates don't want to be around you. And if that's that sort of negative energy suck that you have with you, that's going to be a problem in your locker room, and that's going to keep the rest of your guys back. You're spending more time worried about this guy over here because he's whining and complaining about stuff that he shouldn't be, instead of just working on his game and working on developing and growing better. So in a roundabout way, the answer is both, right? You need to be able to skate, pass, shoot. But then once you pass that initial eyeball test, for me, is it's looking at the rest of it, and it's talking with their current coaches. It's talking with teammates. It's talking with parents, talking with advisors, trying to do your homework as best you can to figure out what kind of personality are you going to get. Because if you get that right mix, that's what the special teams are. You look at any team that wins, they typically tell a story with how tight knit the group was or how close everybody is. And that's what it means. And that doesn't mean you're friends all the time, but it means that you're close and you're willing to compete and battle and sacrifice for something bigger than yourself. And I think that's the biggest trick to the hardest thing to do. And the biggest piece to building a winning team and a successful team is that mental piece.
That's very important, especially with hockey. I feel like that, to kind of provide people a little bit of commentary on the sport. I think most hockey fans or coaches, analysts, whatever word you want to throw around in terms of someone that's involved in the sport, they would agree that chemistry in hockey is everything. I mean, you're only going to go as far as you're going to go, or not as far as you'd like, based on chemistry and morale. There's just something about hockey that I feel like a hockey team is much closer than any other sport, due to the fact that most of the trips, bus trips on the road, as well as just that locker room, the camaraderie within the locker room is unlike anything. I've never experienced anything quite like it in other sports. What would you say as far as that, like as far as the locker room aspect? We've seen instances in hockey and in sports where sometimes the locker room is a huge point of contention. That's where teams can fall apart, and that's where teams can really become a great team. How important is that aspect of the game to you with the Buffalo Stampede?
It's huge. I mean, we spend so much time together as a group that if you hate the guy next to his guts, it's really tough to be successful, right? Because that's going to play in subconsciously as like, I'm not going to work that hard. Like, screw that guy. Like, I don't care. Like, but if it's on the flip side and you have a genuinely close knit group, I'm going to lay down and block that shot because I know the guy next to me would. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability because I know that he's got his. And if you have that trust and respect and just genuine care, then that goes a long way. I mean, you can beat teams that have more talent than you do if they're playing the game as individuals and you're playing as a 5-man unit. Like it's hard to play the game 1-on-5. So if you have that sort of that connectivity and buy-in across the board, then that's when you're going to be successful. And I feel like over the last month or so, I think with some of the the influx of new faces, new personalities, expanded roles in some cases, increased competition just by bringing in new guys that add to our depth, I think we finally are at a place where the mixture is correct. And we're finally at that point to where guys care. There's a positive energy in the room. They care about each other. They're pretty close knit. And they push each other. Like it's kind of like a family, right? Like there's your siblings. If you have siblings closer in age, like you may, beat the hell out of each other, but that's because it's your brother. Like it's your family. Right. You're allowed to. Nobody else is. Like nobody else is allowed to do that because you'll defend them to the end. But so there's that mixture. That's that competition and respect and care that you have to have in order to be successful.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think some of what you said there, some nuggets of what you just said, is in regards to all levels of hockey. Not just the U.S. PHL, but the NHL as well. Kevin Adams just got off of a conference call earlier today, saying that the main reason they signed Dylan Cousins is because he's one of the guys that wanted to be here, and his personality is so infectious that it spread throughout the locker room like wildfire, and it's one of the reasons why the Sabres are having a much better season than what even Kevin Adams thought they would. So that's very big in terms of the positivity, in terms of guys in the locker room feeding off of one another, all of them wanting to be there with the same common goal, the same mission, all on the same page. I love that. Very well said, Brian. So my next question for you, as you mentioned, this is your first season as the head coach and GM of the Buffalo Stampede. This is your fourth season, though, of coaching in the U.S. PHL. You're a native of Westerville, Ohio. Almost said Idaho, Ohio, with
yes.
OH, as they call it.
Yes.
Prior to taking the helm with the Stampede, you were 3 seasons in as an assistant coach with the Columbus Mavericks in the USPHL Great Lakes Division. So this is a key question for me. Okay, obviously, hockey has grown in Columbus quite a lot with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They've been a great franchise for the NHL, but let's be honest here. I know that's your home state. I know that's where you're from. What's the difference between Ohio hockey and Buffalo hockey? To me, I feel like there's a bit of a difference there in terms of you waking up in the morning, your willingness to brush the snow off of your car, knowing that you're a Buffalo hockey coach. does it give you a little bit of a different feeling than it did when you were in Ohio? Do you feel an
Um,
extra edge?
no, honestly, I don't think that it does. I think
No.
the biggest difference that I've seen, if you really want to look at Columbus hockey versus, and even the state of Ohio hockey versus
Sure.
Buffalo, there's just more of it, right? There's
Right.
more at the youth level. There's more players. There's more teams. There's more routes. Like, to be completely honest, I'm still catching up on like the prep school route in high school, like figuring out like all the. It's just a different world where there's just more players, there's more talent, there's more
Mhm.
routes that you can go, but the issues are the same. The top end guys are about the same, right? I mean, maybe there's a couple more coming out of the Buffalo area that are getting drafted, but we've seen a handful of guys in recent years out of Columbus get drafted, so it's catching up.
Right. Yep.
There's just more of them. I think if we put
Mhm.
together a team of the top kids from Columbus, it would be competitive to similar age group, the top kids. Now, the second, third, fourth, fifth team would blow Columbus out of the water. But I think if you're looking at the top end guys, they're pretty comparable, I believe.
Gotcha. So as far as that, and that's kind of where I was going with that, and due in large part to the fact that I feel like there's just more of it,
Yeah,
more hockey in Buffalo, and that kind of would give me like, if I'm coaching hockey in Buffalo, it's like, I feel like I got some skin in the game due to the fact that I'm going up against some other coaches, and coming from Ohio to Buffalo, did you get that feeling that you were a little bit more excited to join that Shark Tank, if you will, like join the ranks of the Buffalo, hockey coaching ranks? Did you have a feeling of motivation that you might not have realized until you got here?
that's an interesting question. I think that my main motivation and my excitement was this was a major step in my career. Being the
Sure.
first time as a head coach, you spend all your time as an assistant, and I learned a ton from Nate, who's the head coach in Columbus, who's an outstanding coach and has been a mentor of mine that I have a ton of respect for. I learned a lot from him, but in the back of your mind, you always have that kind of, maybe I wouldn't have done it. I want to do it my way. Like we're different people. We have different personalities. So so now it's an opportunity for me to be like, did I have it right? Does my way work? How do I want to do things and get to be, I want to build a very successful program here. And we're
Right.
just on the ground floor of laying that foundation of what our culture is going to be. Who are the Buffalo Stampede? I want to get to the point where our teams, we look the same. We've got a style to us. We've got a swagger to us that this is what you're going to get every year because we're going to go get the kids that fit that mold. And we're going to show them and we're going to show the Buffalo community that there's a lot of ways to get to where you want to be. And for some, it's going to be coming through the Stampede for 1, 2, 3 years, whatever it is. For some, it's not going to be. We're not going to be for everybody, and that's fine. I'm not out here trying to compete because there's so many kids in Buffalo that if I wanted to build a team of just from kids from Buffalo, I could do that, and we'd be just fine. But I'm not confined to Buffalo. I'll go pull
Right.
kids from wherever if they're the right kid.
Right.
And we'll just continue to expand our footprint and showcase that we move kids on. Like I had a kid commit to NCAA Division III yesterday at a goalie of ours. So like we're building. We've had in year one the Caden Cranston, he is playing in the NCDC at the tier 2 level. He's leading scorer in the whole league as a rookie. Like there's good players that come through here, and we're able to move some kids on in a short amount of time as a program, and that's just going to get better. So that if there's kids and families listen or whatever, like if you have a kid that wants to develop, this is where we're going to be, because my main goal is to move kids on. I want to turn over half my roster every year because guys are committing to college or they're getting called up
Right.
or they're getting this, that, and the other thing, because that's just going to help me bring in a higher quality player to start with, and we'll just continue
Right.
to grow and grow and grow. And there's no reason that over time that this team shouldn't be a real contender.
It's going to continuously help you refine your ability as a coach too, in terms of developing players, whether they're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I mean, those are very formative years for a hockey player, specifically for any athlete, frankly. But for a hockey player to be projected as a talent at a young age, I mean, there's only so many Connor McDavids out there. There's
Right.
only one.
Right.
But there is so much talent in this quote unquote Western New York pipeline that you don't even have to confine yourself to that area, as you said. But in terms of the team that you're looking to build, maybe you don't have a kid from Buffalo here. Maybe you only have a couple kids from Buffalo, and then you have someone from Spain, like you mentioned earlier, which is just fascinating and fantastic. What goes into that? What goes into the recruiting aspect as far as being able to attract a kid from another country?
Sure. So, I mean, there's a couple things. Is now most players, or a large portion of players, have an advisor. They have someone in their ear that helps kind of plug them in. Because if your family doesn't grow up in hockey, hasn't been through it, it can be a challenge to navigate what's right, what's wrong, what's a good place for me, what's garbage, all that sort of thing. Because there's just so much of it. It can be overwhelming. So I have a pretty good network of, I guess, agents, if you want to call them that, but they're advisors that kind of help guide them and navigate through the muddy waters of junior hockey. So that's typically how we get the first kid. But like anything else, whether they're local or whether they're from Spain or whether they're from Russia, word of mouth is always going to be our best recruiter. So it's on us and on me to put the program together that we say we're going to deliver on. And it holds me accountable knowing if I talk to a kid and I'm in their living room or I'm over Zoom or whatever, and I'm talking to them and I promise them X, Y, and Z, and we don't come close to delivering, that kid's he's not going to have the experience that he wants. And when it comes time to go back home or skate with his friends in the summertime, if I talk to anybody he knows or they bring it up, they're like, oh, that's garbage. You don't want to go there. So you have to deliver on what you say. I don't talk about ice time. We don't talk about anything like that. We talk about the culture and sort of the development model and how we're going to help you get there, how we're going to help you improve, how we're going to help you grow physically, mentally, emotionally, and how we're going to expose you to the next level. I have regular meetings with guys about what are your goals? Where are we trying to get to? What do we want to do? And then if you hold up your end of the bargain as a player, that makes my job as a coach that much easier to pick up the phone and send emails, reach out to coaches, other programs, like these are the guys you want. These are who you need to be looking at, and help elevate our guys to the next level to help deliver on what they're looking for. So I think that's the biggest thing is the more players that come through here that we're able to deliver the experience that they are looking for, the better off we're going to be down the road because they're going to be talking like, hey, Buffalo does it right. They take great care of you. The facilities are great. The staff works with you. Like everything's great. Like everything that he says, they deliver on. Because otherwise, I'm just another coach with a sales pitch, and I don't want to do that.
That's awesome. I love that. And in terms of what you guys have to offer to young talent within the sport of hockey, of course, within the league, you guys have some of the best facilities that you could ask for. This was something that was definitely near and dear to my heart. Growing up in Lockport since day one, the years and years and years that it took, Brian, to get Cornerstone Arena on its feet, let alone bricks put together into
Right.
what it is today. It's truly awesome to walk into that arena and know that it's an institution within the community. It's a staple within the community. You see parents going into the penalty box as they're waiting for their kid to get done, getting out of the equipment. It's just an awesome facility. Everything about it. It's a hockey facility. It's a sportsplex. It's just great. What is the Cornerstone Arena, your home barn, so to speak? What has that meant to you guys in terms of your preparation and not only seeing the people in attendance, but just the facilities in general? How crucial is that for you guys? Each practice, each game.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, Cornerstone is a terrific facility. Shelly and Ryan and Ben and everybody there have been just outstanding to us since I got here. I don't think they've really ever told me no, which is nice. Letting guys sneak out a little bit early or helping us in whatever way that they can, helping put together some youth clinics to help us get exposed to the little guys and girls that are playing
Right.
hockey and help us get a little bit more ingrained in the Lockport community because that's kind of the one thing that I've noticed since I've moved here and spent some time in Lockport is just how tight of a community it is. Like people are genuinely proud to be from Lockport, right? That there's a certain divide between like, no, we're not Buffalo, like we're Lockport, and I think that's awesome. And I want our team to be a staple of that community, same as the rink is. kids that are growing up playing 8U right now for the Lock Monsters can see whether it's me or our players walking around like, I want to be part of the Stampede one day and have that be, their second favorite team behind the Sabres. Like, that'd be awesome. For the little kids to have something to reach out to have us be able to have an impact to give back and be a part of that. And it's been a really good partnership that I'm really excited to see where it goes over the next couple of years. I mean, I spend every day at that rink. I spend about 6-7 hours a day there, chatting with everybody in the building and trying to make some inroads there. And they've been awesome. And the penalty box threw me for a loop, I have to say. I've been to a lot of rinks. I've seen a lot of every bar in a rink that I've ever seen. It's always full of hockey parents, right? You're watching Beer League's coming in. They're getting to grab a drink before the game, after the game, whatever. The fact that the penalty box is like a neighborhood bar that happens to have an ice rink attached to it blew my mind the first time. I walked in, and there was a bar top full of people. I bet half of them didn't even know there was a rink attached to it. They were just there because
they were just there, right?
They were grabbing wings. They were watching the game. So what is this? Like, there wasn't a hockey parent to be seen, and I thought that was awesome. I think that just speaks to kind of Lockport being its own community, its own little world, and it's a great place. I love it.
For sure. Yeah, it's home for me. Always has been, and I've been able to really enjoy being more of a part of the community. I think we were having a little bit of mic issues there. I'm not sure if it was your phone there, but it is.
Might be.
Yep. Yeah. Clear. It's clearer now.
Okay. I think I might have had my hand over it. My
no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, it was a little quiet. I was able to hear you, but just in case the folks at home might not have been able to hear you. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Brian. And in case anybody missed what he said, I mean, Cornerstone has meant a lot to you guys. It's been a fascinating facility for you guys to be a part of, and to see the support from the community that is only going to continue to grow. As you said, you're in your first season as the GM, as the coach as well of the Buffalo Stampede. In terms of how long has this league, the USPHL, how long has the league been around? It's only been years, right?
Yeah, I think as its current version, I think probably I may be making this up, but probably around 10 years or so.
Okay. Yeah, and I thought
it hasn't been too long, because there's always been a lot of like smaller leagues. That's right. What happened with junior hockey in the U.S. is between the USPHL and the NA and the NA3 with USA Hockey, so they've sort of started to just gobble up all of the little independent teams. So I think it's helped sort of streamline and help understand what's going on. But I mean, the USP has expanded to a crazy amount. I think like I said earlier, I think we're about 70 teams just at our level, and that doesn't factor in the elite level below us and the NCDC above us. Which I think brings it to over 100 teams all in, and then all their youth programs. Like, it's a monster of a league.
That's great. Yeah, and I did my own research throughout the years. Obviously, I'm keeping my eye on the Stampede. I've been in attendance for a few of the games, and they're a lot of fun for sure. Hockey, Buffalo, and oh, by the way, there's a bar attached to the arena. I mean,
what else do you need, right?
What else do you need? There's nothing else needed.
And now you got Papa Leo's there.
And now you got Papa Leo's.
Grab a nice pie, you go grab a drink, you can watch the game. It's going to be a great time.
Sure, for sure. As far as you're the head coach, you're the GM, maybe some of the boys on the team will be watching this. This is your moment, Brian, to kind of call your shot, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You might not know where I'm going with this, but who would you say right now is, you can tell as a coach when your boys are playing at a higher level based on the team that they're playing? Anytime when I've been coaching and I notice the kids that I'm coaching playing at a high level, I say that team we're playing against is our rival. That's the team that gets the boys motivated. That's the team that gets the kids going. Who would you say right now within the league is the team that gets your boys going the most, that you could quantify as the rival of the Buffalo Stampede?
Now, I don't want to seem like this is a cop-out answer, just the way the schedule fell. But I gotta say, it's Hershey and it's Elmira.
Okay.
Teams that we play next. We've got Hershey at home Friday, Saturday, and then we've got Elmira at home to finish the home schedule next Wednesday. I think that we've seen Hershey 6 times already. We've Elmira being in close proximity, just the way the games have gone. I think those two, above all, have been kind of the biggest increase in juice, if you will, where guys seem to get excited that they want to go out and really make sure they have a good showing. So, and that's just going to get even better. I think the more we see these teams, the less we're going to like people and the less they're going to like us.
Now that's the Hershey Cubs and
Yes.
the Enforcers, right? The
Yes.
Elmira Enforcers. Okay.
Correct.
So I'm going to make sure, Brian, that I am at the next Hershey Cubs and or Elmira. What's the schedule looking like these next few days?
Yeah. So tomorrow night we're at home, 7:30 puck drop against Hershey.
Nice.
Saturday we are 3:30 puck drop against Hershey, and then Wednesday, I believe it's a 7:00 start at home against Elmira. And
Okay.
the way the schedule's shaping up is this is going to be a pretty massive push for our playoff hopes. We're right down the bubble, a couple games in hand, 3 points out. So this should be a playoff intensity that guys are really gonna kind of let it all hang out and go for it because that's where we need to be. These are must wins for us.
What's your thoughts on that whole thing of, being on the bubble as a coach, your team's on the bubble of a playoff run. Where's the fine line between over practicing and under practicing? Or is it a fine line? Like, where do you stand with that? Because Donnie Granato, there was a stretch of like 4 weeks where the Sabres were not practicing at all. They were just playing their games.
Sure.
What's your thoughts on that as a coach? What's your philosophy?
I think the NHL schedule is a bit different with all the travel and the midweek stuff. Like it's easy to be like, just take the rest. Like you guys are pros, you're fine. Our level is a bit more like the college schedule in that you build all week for the weekend. So, with our practice schedule, we typically will start earlier in the week with more of kind of individual development, just working with forwards independently, D independently. Our goaltending coaches out there work like more of the technical side of the game that maybe you don't get a ton of time to practice on, but it makes a huge difference. And then as we evolve through the week, Tuesday, Wednesday are probably our hardest days where we're battling, we're putting in some systems work, like we're really going. And then Thursdays typically, it's a special teams and it's a confidence kind of day. There's a video session on Thursday. So you've gotten through all of your work on the week and you hope that the model is that you are peaking at the right time. Because as far as I'm concerned, my job's pretty much done once the game starts on Friday for the week. Like it's on the players then. Like there can be some minor adjustments here and there. Maybe we shuffle some lines. Maybe we make an adjustment that we've seen on film that we're just waiting to see if it comes true before we change things up on them. But it's on the players then, and that's their time to shine. Like they put in all the hard work. They've been busting their butt all week, all season, really, to be in this position, to be ready. And come Friday, it's going to be let it rip, fellas. Like, go play.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing. Play the game with confidence. Play the game with some enthusiasm, some bravery, and just go get it done. Because there's not a better feeling in the world than being just exhausted, sitting in that locker room with all your friends and your brothers, feeling like we just got it done. Like we accomplished something. There's not a better feeling in the world than that right there. Not. So, that's part of that maturation and understanding for some of the younger guys is that, yeah, it's going to be hard, but anything worth getting, anything worth achieving is going to be hard. And it's that much more rewarding on the other side. And that's where we're going right now. We've been battling since January, knowing that it was going to come down to the wire here. And, I don't think anyone's going to want to see us when we get in.
I love it. Now, would you say your team is built more on finesse and speed, which is what a lot of this era of hockey is built on? Or would you say that you do prioritize a sense of grit within your team, or maybe even potentially both?
I think you have to have both. I think that if you're a perimeter team, if you're a cute, fancy team, that's not going to work long term, right? You may have some short term success, but teams that play hard, teams that play fast, that are difficult to play against, meaning you're organized, there's some discipline off the puck, you don't give away anything easy. Skill teams tend to get frustrated, right? They force it, and that's when the gritty teams tend to capitalize. And we've seen it before that you see skill teams that don't want to work that hard. Well, okay, we're going to go play below the dots and you're going to have to figure it out. And it's going to hurt. You may win, but you're going to feel it when you're out of here. And that's where we want to be. Like we have some talent, especially towards the top end of our lineup that are as good as anybody that can fly around and make plays and do things. But they also have an understanding that they have to play hard. They have to compete. They have to be just miserable to play against, being fast, always on people's hands. And like, that's where we need to be successful. And that's what we're learning. That's what we're figuring out as we go through it. And every day we get a little bit closer to that.
That's awesome. I love that. So Brian, off the air, you were trying to show me a jersey.
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah.
Let's give the people something fun to see here.
Yeah.
I know we're on Zoom. You know, we're using our phones. My internet was rough this morning, so I apologize. But
I hope that these come through. And I know the infatuation with wings in this city. So we're playing a bit of homage. I'm going to turn this around and see if we can see these.
I love it. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Those
Buffalo
are cool.
Stampede will be wearing Buffalo wing jerseys Friday and Saturday, and then we're actually going to auction them off after.
That's great. So
we have matching socks that have drumsticks all over them. They're incredible.
Just drumsticks, no flats, right?
I'm gonna petition. I think the socks only have drums.
That's all that's necessary.
Drums and flats are 1-2 for me. My favorite wing is my next wing. So
yes,
they're gonna look awesome. The guy, I'm really bad at keeping secrets, so the boys all know, and they are so fired up to wear these that
so cool.
I'm excited to see him go tomorrow.
I gotta get my hands on one of those for sure. I gotta get my hands on a hat. Maybe get a little 3/4 zip like what you got on, something like that. Definitely, you got to support me. Anything Buffalo in front of it, I'm all over it. So this has been awesome. I got a couple questions for you before we wrap up. In regards to today's game, that is the NHL. Growing up, probably playing hockey, right? Of course, playing hockey for you. Who were some of your favorite players for you growing up?
Couple of 19s. Stevie Y and Joe Sakic were two of my favorites growing up. They were just everything about them. I just love the way that they played, that they could do a bit of everything. Like they were everywhere, and just the way they carried themselves. I was always kind of drawn to it. It's actually why I wore 19 was in honor of Steve Yzerman. He's my guy.
That's awesome. I actually got to meet Joe Sakic at the KeyBank Center when the Sabres were Avalanche.
Would love that.
I was like shaking.
I think I would too.
Yeah, it was like one of the first times I said to my dad, I'm like, "That's Joe Sakic over there," and he was like, "Go up to him," and I'm like, "All right." And I went up to him, and he was like, "This is one of my favorite places to come, play. This was one of my favorite places to come play." And the Sabres are one of those teams that I enjoy seeing our team go up against, something like that. And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. Pretty awesome. So in terms of the future of hockey, you're working with the future of hockey every day, 16 to 20. The future of hockey has never been brighter. And I look no further than just the state of every league within the sport. I mean, whether it's the USPHL or the minor leagues, I mean, I think you are in the hotbed of hockey. They call it hockey heaven, this Western New York community. I know I made that joke earlier about Ohio, probably have some Columbus Blue Jackets fans coming at me, but you're a big part now of hockey heaven, Brian. And I really appreciate everything that you're doing within our area, within Lockport specifically, with the Buffalo Stampede. What a cool name for a team too. That's awesome. I love it. So keep up the great work, man. I'm really looking forward to going to some more games. I haven't been in a little bit, but I definitely will be, knowing that I know the coach, right, and the GM.
Hey, I got a couple tickets with your name on it.
It sounds great, man. I really appreciate you hopping on. It's been a pleasure. Folks, you're playing Friday and Saturday at the home arena, Cornerstone.
Yep.
And then you got another home game on Wednesday, right?
Yep. Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, all at Cornerstone.
Can't get much better than that. You got Friday night, Saturday night, and then, a midweek game. Nothing better.
Love it. Nothing better. Love playing.
Thanks so much for joining me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.